BBOR, Black Box Online Radio, coming to you from West Virginia. Well, we have a big one today. As you'll see here, we're continuing onward with our discussions about Gareth Penn and his book, Time 17. All right, up until this point, can I say I absolutely love this book? You know, in some of the Zodiac books out there, like when we did the discussion on The Most Dangerous Animal of All by Gary Stewart, I was not in love with that one. I love this book. There's just so many different angles that we can explore with this. It's coming at it from so many different ways. And there are a lot of things that we have to say in this one. But what I can say about Gareth Penn's overall theory is that the Zodiac Killer was somebody who was a genius. He was also someone that was leaving mathematical signatures in all of the material in Zodiac activity. Like, everything is very finely tuned. It's all done in a very precise mathematical way. So when you sort of look at the dates in Zodiac activity, December 20th, 1968, July 4th of 69, September 27th, 69, October 11th of 69, and you're like, why did the Zodiac activity happen on these dates? Gareth Penn's explanation for it is there are mathematical signatures in everything. Not only that, but even just when you talk about, notice how the book's called Time 17. The Zodiac ciphers were written in lines of 17 letters, and everything is going to come together in some sort of a mathematical way. And the way that Gareth Penn has introduced that is that saying that if someone were really involved with university-level mathematics, then they would not have too much trouble doing this. This would be something that they could accomplish rather easily. And when you think about it, someone is leaving their own mathematical clues that all have to be put together. Once they know what to do, it's a lot less complicated than it would seem. But as far as the age of Gareth Penn's suspect, Michael O'Hare, he would have only been 26 years old during the year of 1969. And definitely he would be 26 during the bulk of Zodiac activity. Now, can I just ask you that as a challenge question, starting off? What do you think about that? Because I gotta tell you, no matter who you're talking about with the Zodiac Killer, for a while I thought it was possible that we could be dealing with somebody late 30s, early 40s. Then recently, I really began to think about this. Something like the Zodiac Killer could definitely be somebody closer to the early 20s and mid-20s. And one of the reasons why, and I know this is a cheesy reason to do it, but Eddie Seda was the New York Zodiac Killer copycat. We did an upload about him called Eddie Seda, the New York Zodiac Killer, here on this channel. Highly recommend it. And with that one, you were dealing with some guy who was in his early 20s, frustrated with life and such, and he created his own sort of Zodiac Killer persona. It's a copycat, so there's some similar things, obviously very different in the precise details, but it's the similar structures, mailing in ciphers. So I really began to think about that in terms of human psychology. Perhaps there is someone involved with this who would be much younger on the age spectrum, not thinking only early 30s and 40s, or even someone in his 20s. I'd be very curious what anybody would have to say about that. On to Gareth Penn stuff. The word times is very frequently used by the Zodiac Killer. Times, times. The word times was used very frequently by the person who murdered Sherry Jo Bates. And what Gareth Penn is saying is that it has to be the same person. The letters are signed with a Z that's made to look like a 3. The number 38 is going to be very valuable. The Zodiac used 3 types of handguns: a 22, a 9mm, and a 38. If you look at 9 p.m. on your clock, your watch, 9 p.m. 9 p.m. minus 22 minutes is 8:38. So he's like, all of this is going to be relevant. All of this is meaningful. Now, there was a letter from the Zodiac that was mailed to an individual named Melvin Belli, the very famous attorney. He was also an associate of Paul Avery. And he lived at 722 Montgomery Street. Or sorry, his law office was at 722 Montgomery Street. And I shouldn't even say the word street. They only refer to it as 722 Montgomery. This is where his law office was. The Zodiac mailed a letter to Melvin Belli, but the address was wrong. The address was written as 228 Montgomery, not 722. And what Gareth Penn writes here in his book, 722 and 228 have something in common. Both of them are exact multiples of the number 38. 722 is 38 times 19, 228 is 38 times 6. And the odds of that happening, like, by chance are just astronomically low, or not astronomically, but it's 23 out of 899 possibilities. There are only 23 possible choices that the Zodiac could have done to get lucky like that just by chance alone. Very unlikely. And that's what Gareth Penn is really trying to convey to us, that all of these mathematical signatures are real, because just the likelihood of this all happening by chance is just not acceptable. Now, we said the dates in Zodiac activity would have meaning. When did the Lake Berryessa stabbing happen? September 27th of 1969. And we said at this time, Gareth Penn's suspect, Michael O'Hare, would have been 26 years old, right? But if you were to take his age at the time of the Lake Berryessa stabbing, he's 26 years old, but if you were to go down to the day, how many days would that be? 9,745 days. Okay, well, what's the significance of that? Michael O'Hare's mother was on her 38th birthday. What was her 38th birthday? September 7th, 1945. 9745. And just to repeat that, in case, like, I want everyone to follow along with me, that the date of Michael O'Hare's mother's 38th birthday, the mother of Michael O'Hare, her 38th birthday is September 7th, 1945, 9745. On the date of the Lake Berryessa stabbing, September 27th, 1969, Michael O'Hare was 9,745 days old. Is that just a coincidence? I mean, I gotta say, though, in terms of linking all this stuff together, I'm very much impressed. And that's why I said I love this book. I love that somebody like Gareth Penn isn't just going to dismiss certain things and be like, this stuff has no meaning, let's just talk about, something else. No, he's actually trying to link all of these things together. And the point is, though, he's saying that there are a few other signatures that we got to talk about. And the reason why we have the number 38 is Michael O'Hare went to Harvard. And when he was at Harvard, 1960 to 1964, he was the editor of a publication called the Cambridge 38. Now, the 38 used to be the zone code for Cambridge. Before they had zip codes, they had zone codes. And the zip code of Cambridge is 02138. 38. So Gareth Penn is insinuating, and perhaps I wouldn't say that he uses the exact sentence, but he's saying that you need to look for the number 38 to find someone who went to Harvard University, the way that Michael O'Hare did. This is how we're going to get connected to Massachusetts, but I really want to see what other crimes in the book we're going to talk about, because the way that the book was introduced in its title is that we're going to be dealing with possibly some murders happening in Massachusetts. I would really like to hear about that. What do we say about this one? I mean, I definitely find it better than some of Robert Greatsmith's stuff, I'd say that much. But now if we're going to look here at some things, I'm going to introduce something in a very long, twisted, roundabout way. Noam Chomsky famously said that coincidence, contradiction, and the unexplained are part of life. They are not significant of any fact or conclusion by themselves. When you're using the scientific method, or just in life in general, you might encounter coincidences and contradictions and an unexplained phenomena that you can't explain, that you don't have an explanation for, but that's just what it has to rest as. It has to stay that way because it's not significant of a conclusion by itself. And you might be wondering, okay, sure, someone's conducting a science experiment and then the lights go out, and then you think, oh yeah, that's a coincidence, right? I mean, that sounds more of what Chomsky was describing, right? How on earth would you connect that to the true crime world? Now, I have to tell you, this might seem like a stretch, but I was listening to the Forensic Files podcast the other day, the day before yesterday, actually, and they're talking about this case where a man is murdered, and they find fingerprints on his wallet. Years later, they're able to track down the person whose fingerprints that was. But he wasn't the killer. No. Turns out it's somebody else completely. How did his fingerprints get on that wallet? We don't know. We aren't sure. It's unexplained. Is there some kind of coincidence there? Is there some connection that people haven't found yet? He wasn't the murderer. They caught the guy because of other forensic evidence. So, and not to mention a confession, but it's like coincidence, contradiction, and the unexplained exist in life. And is that what we have to do with Gareth Penn and all of his mathematical analyses? I don't know. I'm really not sure. I can say I never thought too highly of Michael O'Hare in the past because on the surface, you just look at Gareth Penn stuff and you're like, oh, this guy's just crazy and rambling. When I'm sitting down and reading his book and you're actually giving it some thought, you're like, wow. I mean, there are a lot of coincidences going on. What did we say about the Radian theory? Putting the line 57.29 degrees, 57.3 degrees on top of Mount Diablo. One line goes to Blue Rock Springs. One line of the Radian goes to Presidio Heights. What was in the center? Lake Berryessa. And as we said, though, the number of days Michael O'Hare was born matches the date of his mother's 38th birthday. So it's like this is tied into recognizing motherhood, birth, and something like that. The creation of the Zodiac killer persona. And I will really want to reinforce something, to reiterate something. You see, we did an upload about the significance of the dates, and I was trying to add up all the numbers together, and I thought maybe they'd be significant of things in the alphabet, like the ninth letter of the alphabet for September or something, and I just really could not accept that. You have this serial killer who is murdering people in such a precise way, mailing in the letters, taunting the police. There's so much thought going into this. And even if you entertain the Thomas Henry Horn Zodiac killer hoax theory, you would have to admit there is an enormous amount of thought going into this, and the planning and the preparations. Not to mention that the Zodiac told us to put the Radian on top of Mount Diablo to see where this was going. So it's like, what can we say so far? The Radian goes to Blue Rock Springs, Presidio Heights, Lake Berryessa is the center. Lake Berryessa is equidistant from Mount Diablo, as is Travis Air Force Base. So you could be looking for somebody in the Air Force or a mathematician who wanted us to focus in on Lake Berryessa, looking for a mathematical signature, using the number 38 as kind of a base key, tying it into a Harvard graduate, as well as the date of Michael O'Hare's mother's birth, her 38th birthday is equal to the age of Michael O'Hare during the date of the Lake Berryessa stabbing. Is that the only possibility? Or is this just a coincidence, a contradiction? This is something that is unexplained and that we just have to accept it. Like, is that just something that we have to do to accept this? Because, I mean, is it that Noam Chomsky line? This is just going to remain something unexplained. Why are there all these coincidences that are attached to Michael O'Hare and the number 38 and the number 17? Like, also, one of the things I did think about, though, and this is going off a little bit more into the speculative territory, I thought that perhaps the Zodiac claimed to have murdered 37 people. and then the number 38 becomes significant. Is Gareth Penn going to tie this into something and just sort of say +1, that maybe this is going to end in another murder and that'll be the culmination of everything? But I think that it's very valuable to have discussions about what could the meanings of these dates be? What could the meanings of these numbers be? Because it gets you to cover all the bases and to explore things. And I'm not 100% convinced of Gareth Penn's analysis. I'm not 100% convinced at all, because it almost feels like he is maybe pulling at some things and reworking them in a way that maybe isn't 100% accurate, because he's taking a lot of liberties. I mean, how frequently did the Zodiac say to count the numbers of the lines in the letters and the ciphers? The ciphers, very precisely. The ciphers are in lines of 17. Oh, but a big thing that I think is also mentioned in this chapter here. I like killing people because it is so much fun. That sentence, right? Has 38 letters. I mean, is that a coincidence too? That's what I said when I love this book. That's what I meant when I said it. There's just so many thought-provoking possibilities. And Gareth Penn is doing a very good job of portraying this in a way that just pulls you in. And I'm like, I mean, this book is a page turner, I'll tell you. I know I'm reading it in the electronic version, but it just pulls you in. And I really found when I'm sitting around and thinking about this, it's not so much trying to force my own theory onto this the way I did in the past with many things, the Zodiac Killer, true crime in general. I would always think, let's use my own theory. I find myself doing the opposite. I'm really just trying to lay down the steps that Gareth Penn has cited. You know, like when you're just drinking coffee or something and you should be thinking about, like, what the conversation that you're having with a person. I'm just drifting off thinking about the Zodiac Killer and, okay, so the Radian is shaped like this. These numbers are lined up with that. And it really pulls you in and it makes you kind of question this. And I just really want to get Gareth Penn's platform in order. And I got to tell you, though, as well, there's another thing. A lot of this chapter was dealing with binary and the base numbers. I didn't really want to talk about that too much because I think I'm starting to understand what Gareth Penn is saying with that. It's just, I don't want this to turn into some giant math presentation. Maybe a different channel could do that in a particular way, but right now, I think, though, that let's just look at the possibility. Even if you do not accept Gareth Penn's statement, is it possible there are hidden mathematical clues in the Zodiac letters and ciphers? Just that. Even if you don't accept the number 38, the number 17, all of these things, that the Zodiac mailed a letter to Melvin Belli with the wrong address, so it has to be the number 38. Even if you don't accept that, 100%, is it possible the Zodiac was leaving mathematical clues? And we're going to have to leave it there for now. Thank you for listening to part 3 of this segment. If you like this upload, you can hit the like button. And if you haven't subscribed yet, you're welcome to do so. But most importantly, please drop some comments below so we can continue the discussion. Until next time.